Pandit was an alumnus of G.S.MEDICAL College, being a 1944 batch student. After her post-graduation in obstetrics and gynecology, she worked as an associate professor at Sir Sayajirao General Hospital and Medical College, Baroda in Gujarat State for 9 years. And after shifting to Mumbai in 1963, she did her consulting practice till 1990. She left for her heavenly abode on 31st December 2001. This oration has been instituted by her late husband, Dr. R.D. Pandit, in her memory, through the Dr.M.V.L.K. Alumni Association. Dr. R.D. Pandit, himself an obstetrician and gynecologist, was closely associated with the activities of the Dr.M.V.L.K. Alumni Association throughout his life. Sir passed away in 2011. And this statement that I will be sharing with you is something that has been with me for the last few years. He always believed that listening carefully to eminent personalities from various fields of medicine enriches not just the knowledge base of students, but also inspires them and contributes to their holistic development. He provided an opportunity for the same by instituting this oration, and we are very grateful to him. I don't know if Sir's daughter, their daughter, Dr. Asha Dalal is around. We had invited her. She is the professor and head of OBGYN at Hospital. Having introduced the oration, I now request our dignitaries, Dr. Sunil Pandya sir, Dr. LOPA MEHTA ma'am, and the distinguished speaker, Dr.Krishna G Seshadri, to please come up and join us on the dais. I now request Pallavi to welcome the dignitaries on the dais by offering them tilgul. It's now my privilege to introduce our chairpersons for today. For all of us here, they just do not need any introduction, but it has to be a formal activity. Dr. Sunil Pandya sent me a very brief, he's called it as a mercifully brief introduction. He is presently the neurosurgeon at Jaslok Hospital and Research Center. Sir was appointed as Professor of Neurosurgery at G.S.MEDICAL College, KM Hospital, Mumbai in 1975 and retired on superannuation in 1998. He is an alumnus of Grand Medical College and Surgery Group of Hospitals and obtained his MBBS from University of Bombay in 1961 and MS General Surgery in 1965. His training in neurosurgery was under the guidance and supervision of Dr. J.J. at JJ Hospital and Dr. Homi Gastur at KM Hospital. Later, he pursued further specialty training in the Institute of Neurology, London, with Professor Valentine. Dr. Pandya has written essays in scientific journals as well as popular press on neurosurgery, the history of medicine and issues pertinent to ethics in medicine. He is the emeritus editor of the Indian Journal of Medical Ethics and serves on the editorial boards of medical journals such as the National Medical Journal of India and Mensana Monographs. Dr. Pandya is also a life member of the Neurological Society of India and the Asiatic Society of Bombay. Our second chairperson is Dr. LOPA MEHTA, a hardcore GSite, a brilliant student all through her career, walked away with the gold medal for all the subjects all the time, an outstanding faculty, and past head of the Department of Anatomy. Even if I wanted to go and kind of crackle mustard seeds, she had that smile, so I didn't know what else to do, so I couldn't crackle any mustard seeds there. She has adopted pioneering ways to orient anatomy clinically and has also contributed to research in anatomy that has seen some basic concepts. Her papers and books are witness to the same. A dedicated alumnus, an active member of Cosmic Alumni Association, which is hosting this oration. Currently, Madam has focused her efforts, amongst other things, on developing the archives of KEM, which goes by the name of Janet, which is next to the Pathology Museum. This museum houses evidence of the glorious past of KEM and also the current achievements. She has been crucial in strengthening the corpus for scholarships for our brilliant but economically challenged students. I now request Dr. Sunil Pandya sir to please introduce our orator for the day, Dr. Krishna Seshadri.
Dr. Seshadri's biodata assures us that we are in for a treat when we listen to it. And this is what the founders of this oration intended, that the speakers who are invited to deliver this oration will enlighten us, and I'm sure we are in for a very, very interesting talk. The reason why I'm so confidently stating this is that he has wide experience both abroad and in India. He trained partly in Madras and then partly in Chicago in Illinois, where he also joined the Cook County Hospital eventually as a consultant over there. And after coming back to India, he has worked at the Ramchandra Medical College and Hospital in Madras and is now after retirement in the private sector. He is very keenly interested, amongst other things, in the humanities. And I note in the last line that we have been provided that his abiding interest is in the Vedas, the Advaitic philosophy, and the history of the Middle Chola and the Maratha kingdoms. By itself, this is extraordinary. But the last two words are even better. He is interested in fusion cooking. I think we are going to hear perhaps something of each of these interests in addition to, of course, the talk that he has prepared. May I invite Dr. Seshadri to deliver this oration?
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you so much for this introduction. This oration is very special to me for several reasons. One, I usually get called to endocrinology orations, which is my bread and butter. But sometimes, most of the time, when you have a wife and a mistress, you're fond of the mistress. And the mistress happens to be medical education. The second reason this is very special is this is Avinash's stuff. And Dr.SUPE has been a mentor, a guide, a friend for many years, someone who's fostered my medical education career, tolerated my Americanisms many times, and helped me develop this interest in teaching ethics and professionalism. And since Dr. SUPE is secretary, I know the kind of thing that KEM already does. The third thing, of course, is my interest in fusion cooking goes back to the history of the Maratha Empire. As I was telling this morning, the favorite dish in this country is sambar. And I don't know how many of you know that it's a Marathi dish. You know this before?
No.
So you go home, ask your mom or your grandmom what amti is, and then know that for many years that Tamil Nadu was saved from the Muslim invasion or Mughal invasion by Marathi presence in South India, and this was initially by Shahu and then Sambhaji, and then we have a big Marathi presence in Tanjore. And one day, Shahu wanted to make amti for Sambhaji who was coming, Shivaji's son, and then found out that he didn't have the right ingredients to make amti. And then made a few changes, and lo and behold, sambar was born. So let me talk about this personal journey, and I can tell you that there are lots of interesting things about this journey, but let's talk about this. I have no conflicts of interest except that I'm very passionate about this. Let's start with learning. There are lots of definitions in there, and I sit in a group where I can see at least 4 or 5 big educationists here. And from the 80s, you'll find a lot of definitions for learning. But to me, the most important definition of learning is the last one. Learning is the process by which knowledge is created through the transformation of experience. It's an ulta. We always talk about knowledge as leading to wisdom. But here is the right definition of learning. That when you create an experience, from that knowledge is created. And that knowledge helps you adapt to a newer experience. And this is the truth of learning. This is how adults learn. And incorporating this principle of creating experience and transforming that experience into a set of knowledge and values that students and learners can take for the rest of their life has been the passion that both Dr. SUPE and I have been trying to infuse into the partially successfully into the MCI and other places. To this I want to start about this particular thing. A lot of times when we talk about people to learn, we have something that we intend for them to learn. But what they end up learning is a completely different story. And since I have the time today, I will tell you one such story and then we go on. So if you go to Chennai and you go on the main road, there is this amazingly wonderful statue of one of the governors of Chennai, called Sir Thomas Munro. So there was this old grandfather and grandson who were living quite close to the railway station. And every day the grandfather would take his grandson to see this amazing statue of Thomas Munro. So Sir Thomas Munro is his governor, he's perched on this wonderful horse, and if you notice carefully, you will see there are no stirrups or a saddle. So they were going every day for about 5 years to see this statue because this boy loved this much. And about 5 years afterwards, the boy is around 7 or 8, and the boy's parents were relocating from Chennai to say Mumbai. So the grandfather and the grandson decide, let's go see Thomas Munro for the last time. And then as they go and they stand and look at Thomas Munro's statue and admire it, the grandson asks the grandfather, Grandpa, I want to ask you one question. I've been wanting to ask you this for a long time. Who is this man who's sitting on top of Thomas Munro? That's really what happened for a teacher's teacher. So instead, what we are trying to do is to make this process transparent. Can we state what is it that somebody needs to achieve clearly? Can you communicate to that person that this is what you need to achieve? And then create the experiences that will allow this person to achieve it or not achieve it. And that is what the focus of our work for the last 5-6 years has been, is to move, and it's like pushing. There's a huge cart and a chariot in Tiruvallur where the god travels, and to push it. In Kerala you actually have elephants pushing the chariot, but in Andrew you can't do that, you have to take it out. So it's like moving the Tiruvallur chariot. So what we're trying to do is to create measurables which can be stated, which can be taught, which can be assessed. But the important thing is it can be measured. So our current concept in medical education is like walking through a supermarket store. Mom gives you a list of what needs to be picked up. You walk through the aisle, you put it in your basket, at the checkout counter, you check it off and say, I got this, I got this, I got this. But this is the principle of what we call competency-based education. So competency is an observable ability of a healthcare professional integrating multiple components such as knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes. So it's a lot of small buckets. These buckets have various variances. These are put together, and then you create this person called art. So in the past, people who've done medical education will notice that these three were the big ones: ask, attitudes, skills, and knowledge. Now, when we started working with the Medical Council of India, we added this extra one of communication simply because this is something that we don't talk about much. And I have taken the liberty of throwing in two more things into this, saying that the entire domain of medical education comprises of 6 domains, but really need to be pushed together so that you get one color. I'm looking for a 7th domain, so it makes a bit gear, but I got 6 so far. So this is knowledge, skills, attitudes. But more importantly, values. What is it this person values? What is it that forms the fundamental, the core of education that needs to be? How responsive is this person? Does this person actually go out of his way to help a patient who's walking to his clinic? Does he value his sleep more at night or going and taking care of a woman in labor? What is his responsiveness? And how can he communicate what he values, what is his attitude adequately to this patient or his colleagues? So moving away from just knowledge and skills, we have these other 4 that have so far been nebulous in the atmosphere, looking for just saying, oh, let me look at my teacher and learn, and not knowing whether I've learned the right thing. And how can we convert these into something that you can measure and you can achieve, has been the journey for many of us in the past decade. So this is where we are. So a student needs to have all of this. But the way we look at it from different perspectives also changes. For example, at this point of time, this is what medical education values. A huge amount of knowledge, very few skills, and minuscule amounts of the others. So the examiner would spend, I hope some of you don't get offended, but I can tell you the final year medical examination is like this. There are three examiners sitting there with a bunch of kaju biscuits in front of them. The student is examining the patient there. He's coming back and he's presenting it. The patient is never seen by the examiner. And the examiners compete with each other to ask a question that the student cannot answer. And I've seen this examiner turn back and flourish at the other examiner, as if this is a jugalbandi where one is playing a tabla and another the katam and saying, look, I asked a more impossible question. Do you relate to this? So, once you go to the medical system, things change. Knowledge doesn't become such a big premium, but skills do and communication. But even then, most doctors don't look at these 3 because most people think that they're not MD but GOD, right? But what is the patient value? A patient may not value knowledge so much, and you notice that all your gold medalists are charging 50 rupees per consultation, but the man who failed in class is charging 2,000 rupees per consultation. Why does that happen? Because he has got the premium of communication, responsiveness. And this is what people like Dr.SUPE value. They want all of these to be an important part. So you need to get a balance of this. But clearly, this is no longer tenable. And why is this hidden? Why is it that we don't spend, when we go back, you will see that society values this very less, and these much more. But the majority of time in medical school is spent on this. And not only spent on this, I'm going to be a little more critical. We don't spend time just on knowledge, but the basis part of knowledge. And how do I say we spend time with the basis part of knowledge? I can challenge you that 90% of our examination questions, the Viva or anything, will start with what? Right? Yes? How many percent it starts with why? How many with how? And certainly how much with why not? These are higher levels of learning of knowledge that don't get touched upon. So that's really what it is. So why is it hidden? So let's talk about what is hidden. So the hidden curriculum, this is McLaren's definition, is passive ways. And see how these people have constructed the sentence, in which knowledge and behavior gets constructed outside the usual course of materials and formally scheduled sessions. Which means the way I walk into a clinic is something that the student has observed, and if I'm an arrogant, and you can fill in the rest of the words, my student imbibes in arrogance. If I feel that talking down to my patient is a way I'm a big doctor, my student starts aping that and saying opposite. So this is hidden, but it's not hidden, it is seen. It's seen, it's imbibed, it is practiced, and worse, it's translated. So what the problem is, it posits a network of assumptions when internalized by students establishes the boundaries of legitimacy. It basically tells students that it's alright to be a jerk to your patients. And then people wonder why doctors get attacked. So why is it hidden? Why is it hidden? Let's go back. The three reasons. It's difficult to define. It's difficult to measure. It's difficult to teach. But I'm going to tell you that it's not difficult to define. It's certainly not difficult to measure. And it's certainly not impossible to teach. All it requires for us is to look at this differently and start telling ourselves, look, this is more important than everything that I teach. And why should we say that this is more important than everything that I teach? Because everything else that I teach changes. When I went into my fellowship, there was no end of it. There was CAN cyclovir was just starting, right? And certainly there was no pegylated interferon. So if you're spending your time teaching entecavir and pegylated interferon for 90% of your time, your students are not going to remember you because what you've taught them has already become useless by the time you have. You've taught them how to reflect, how to respond, how to value, and how to communicate. You've done something amazing. So can we define and measure? I'll go back. At the end, I'll talk to you about CARs. CAR is basically communications, attitudes, responsiveness, and values. So there is this old story where if it is not assessed, it's not learned. Which means the first way to start introducing something into the curriculum is to tell you, I'm going to assess you on this. I'm going to extend this and say, if it is not measured, it's not learned. Which means that when you write a curriculum, you need to start writing measurables for what you're planning to teach. At the end of the session, this student will be able to explain to the patient in his or her own language the complications of this procedure. Can it be measured? Absolutely. Or if I say in a manner that the patient understands, can you measure it? Sure. If the patient is able to repeat what he's just told, then he's understood. So, one of the ways to start doing these things is to create measurable outcomes. So, can you measure empathy? I submit to you, you can. Can you measure responsiveness? Yes, you can. Can you measure values? Yes, you can. You start thinking about it. Because we don't think enough about it, we don't think it can be measured. The truth is, each time that we interact with each other, we are measuring each person's empathy. whether I give up my seat for sir to come in when he sat, tells me whether I respect someone who's coming. Right? By the way, whether I look at my eyes and your eyes and talk, it tells me whether I respect you. So each of these can be measured. It depends on how, and enough people have criticized me when I do workshops. So you're obsessed with verbs. I am. Because I'm a man of action. Right? Verbs are verbs of action. When you get the verbs right, then you get education. So the verbs are defense. Can I make a choice and defend that choice? Demonstrate. How do I demonstrate respect for a woman when I examine her? Ask for a chaperone. Demonstration of respect for a woman's privacy. Ask for a screen to be drawn. Can I do that? Yes. Complies. I comply with universal regulations and shows that I have respect for the patient. Can I explain? Can I collaborate? Collaboration is what two people with equal intelligence do together. Choose, displays, discriminates, recognizes. Each of these are verbs that allow us to create measurables. And this demonstrates respect for the cadaver in all actions. Demonstrates adequate respect for lab animals. Demonstrates his respect for colleagues in his workplace. Each of this is measurable. Measurable as a skill, measurable as a value, measurable as an attitude. And it can progress from what to how to why to why not. That's the highest part. Why not? If I change the situation, here's the situation, how will you defend this? How will you respond? Okay? I'm going to change it. Why have you chosen this particular answer? Now if I change the situation, can you think of another way to do this? This is how learning goes. This is how learning progresses. And this is how we become what I call acquire layers of sophistication in our work. It starts from the first year of medical school. It finishes the day we hang our shingles up. And even then it continues because we continue to inspire people by what we do. So getting the outcomes right is the most important way of teaching professionals. And I'll talk about what we've done. So we've talked about that you can measure it. Let's look a little more about creating these opportunities. So the way I look at learning is, if learning is the acquisition of new knowledge, skills, or attitudes, what is teaching? Teaching is not telling 50 syndromes, 50 ways of helpless family, but creating an opportunity for learning to happen. If that means getting out of the way, then you need to get out of the way. A lot of times teachers actually obstruct rather than instruct. Because they try to create people in their own mold instead of allowing them to grow into somebody with an independent set of values. So how do you create a learning experience? You create a learning experience by creating opportunities for 4 things. One is to watch, another is to think, the third is to do, and the fourth is to feel. These are the 4 components of learning. Watching, thinking, doing, and feeling. So, I've added a few words there. Reflective observation is watching. Abstract concept, perceptualization is called thinking. Active experimentation is called doing. And concrete experience is feeling. So the one end is do, the other end is watch. On this side, on one end is feel, the other end is think. What you really want to do, how we do things is a process. How we think about things is how we perceive. When you create experiences that include all of these, that allows learners to look through all of these, and this becomes a learning experience. Allowing people to think, to watch, to feel, and to do. And that is the complete continuum of learning. If that is not present through the 3 years or the 5 years of learning experience, the students leave without what is important. So let's see how we got into, remember the focus of my talk is still professionalism, so how we got into do this. Now when I came back from the US in 97, I was real, I was fairly bright, but also fairly stupid in the way of how to do stuff. I had some mentors. The most important one was my colleagues at Harvard Medical School, especially Dr. Thomas Adams, who I should acknowledge as a man who got me, before Avinash took over, Thomas Adams was a man who molded me into a lot of stuff. And we sat in our school and started looking at how can we write objectives for medical education. That's how we started. And then we had all these subject experts, and they started writing, and they looked at the global burden of disease, and we wrote up a lot of stuff: iron deficiency, anemia, cardiovascular illness, a whole bunch of stuff. Then we realized that when you bring experts into a group, they will never agree on anything. How do you know that there are experts? Because they will not agree on anything. The second thing that will happen is, if it is anything outside their comfort zone, they will make sure it doesn't happen. I don't know if you know this, it's true of all of us. So, we had this whole bunch of stuff. And I can tell you we did the same thing again in the MCR, so it's really funny. So we had this whole bunch of stuff that we had, we knew how to do this, we wanted to start implementing it. But we realized that if we were going to ask our teachers to teach iron deficiency anemia and a problem-oriented hybrid way of doing it, it will never happen. Because, remember, for the students it's not a problem, because the students, it's their curriculum, it's a new curriculum. It doesn't matter if it's new or old or anything. It's their way, it's the new norm. But for teachers, this is a huge change. So, we were sitting this morning, and usually the one way to make curriculum work is provide food. So, when I was reading the curricular change, I didn't ask for anything. I did not ask for a car or a driver or this or that, but I said I want a food budget. And breakfast is available in my office for anyone who comes and works in that morning. I used to move my clinic to 10 in the morning. 8 to 10 was productive time for this. So sitting in, then we realized, look, the only way that we can get this to succeed is if we introduce a module that everybody thinks that they're an expert in, but nobody is comfortable doing. Does it make sense? If you want something to work, get something. It's like everybody's a TV critic, but are they comfortable acting in front of television or doing a television show like that? So, I drew a lot of inspiration from a man called Quincy Jones. Have you heard of Quincy Jones? Quincy Jones is one of the greatest producers of music ever in the world. Now, I don't know how many of you know this particular song called We Are the World, We Are the Children. We Are the World. It's Hollywood for Africa. So all the top singers of that day had come. So you had to deal with Michael Jackson, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna. And if medical teachers have huge egos, can you think of how many more huge egos would they have? So what did Quincy Jones do was he put in a small note outside his office and he said, leave your egos and your footwear here. So we called in these people and said, we're going to create something new, but we want you to do me a favor. That while you're in this office, you will never say which specialist you are. That you will forget that you're a pediatrician, you're a microbiologist, you're an anatomist. You're here as an MBBS teacher to help students learn. And the first way to get them to do this is to make you forget that if you use that, you cannot say that you're an anatomist, in anatomy. So remember that all your teachers are very territorial. If you take 1 hour of the 557, is it 557 now? So I usually make fun of the anatomy teachers and say, look, Harvard has 8 weeks of anatomy. But this is what we did. And we said, let's create something that nobody is doing, and at the same time, everybody is uncomfortable with. So we created this thing called professional development, where I actually sat and wrote 6 cases the first year, and we said we'll pilot it in the problem-based hybrid model, and I'll show you the hybrid model when I come to it. And we said that we will have no department doing it. Every department does it. Every department will lend people. It will be in one afternoon. It is one afternoon every other week and one anchoring lecture. And every teacher is a facilitator. We never had any sessions on teaching ethics. The only sessions we had was how to facilitate a discussion without being a judge. And he said that at the end of this, we need you to do three things. One is, at the end of our paper, allow the students to discuss it, allow them to set their objectives, and then ask them to do three things. One, to read about it from the ethics book or whatever else. Phone a friend. Go to ask another senior in the community what would happen to the case. And the third is get a legal or some other expert, and then come back the next week and talk about it. Our teachers reported, they said, you're not giving us hard and fast rules. None of these cases can be solved. The idea is none of these cases should be solved. The idea is you shouldn't be giving an answer. They should explore the answer. You shouldn't be telling them what to do. They need to find out what has to be done. But that's not medical education. That's exactly the kind of medical education we want. So the students were very enthusiastic. The teachers weren't so much, but I had the danda behind me and it worked. But over a period of time, what happened was the students started writing the program. And they said, we like these sessions. We like the fact that we are able to communicate. And something very interesting happened. That in that year in their examination, the external examiners started commenting that your students communicate so well. They're able to pick up points and talk that they had otherwise not done. That's really all that happened. Then we created some crazy stuff. Go and stand with a nurse for a whole day. Don't say anything. Be in her shoes. Come back and tell us what you did. Go to the laundry. See what's happening. Go take a visit along with the ER technician in the ambulance. Come back. See how people work. So we created these kind of experiences and it sort of helped. And one of the things that we tried to do was to create reflection. I talk about reflection in a moment, and this is something that Avinash will tell you that if I start talking, I'll keep on talking about it. Now, sometime after 2010, Dr. Sarin was here, he started initiating this process on the same. Then about 2014, we were in the Medical Council of India, and then we were confronted with the same thing. We were asked to write competency-based education curriculum for the whole country. And then we had this huge list of competencies. And then you need to start piloting it. The same thing, if you tell a bunch of teachers to start doing something that they are comfortable doing, that project will never get successful. Simply because they already think they know a better way to do it. And then we were sitting with Dr. Mishra and Avinash and all the others, and suddenly Dr. Mishra said, why don't we teach ethics? So this is like deja vu for me because this had happened 10 years ago. And that's how ACCOM was born. So ACCOM is I'm sure many of you who are teachers here know about it. It's Attitudes and Communication module. And the name was coined in 5 minutes. And some of the experiences that we had in Florida were translated into this. So we got cases, a case like a kidney for sale. A doctor who wanted a second opinion from a general doctor than a specialist. Giving students a situation where a vaccine was given wrongly, should you go tell the patient? Asking students to communicate an informed consent. Talk about privileges. What is the rights of a cadaver? Stuff like that. And that's really what it does. And this is the kind of construct that we have. And this has, and I have a lot of scars from medical education over the years, and all the lessons that we have learned by our repeated failures has gone into this. So we have a case, the students initiate a discussion, learn, then the responsibilities are assigned, just like how it was done. Then they come back, and there's an anchoring lecture from an expert. Then they discuss and resolve the case, or get the second part of the case. So hopefully what we will do is, as ACCOM progresses, as this gets introduced, it's run into Babudam, right? experiences, there are self-directed learning, there are practical stuff that is present, of course, etc. So this is the principle of hybrid PPO that's brought into this new competency-based learning. I want to shift gears and talk about something very important. And I gave you a hint of what happens in the final year MBBS exam. Now I can also tell you that this is what happens at least as long as I was teaching MBBS, and till a year ago I was still teaching MBBS. And this is what happens in the MBBS classrooms. The student takes a case, the teacher almost never sees the history being taken, and the case is presented, and then we all go home, right? Yes? So, what is a learning climate? Students need an environment where their beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors need to be observed, analyzed, and challenged. When I say challenge, it means how can you do this better? How have you done? And how can you do this better? Unless we start asking those questions, we never learn. So, this is my favorite quote that people have heard before from George.M.V.L. It says, if musicians learn to play their instruments as physicians learn to interview patients, the procedure would consist of presenting of lectures or maybe a demonstration onto the theory and mechanisms of music, producing the ability of the instrument and telling him to produce a melody. The instructor, of course, would not be present to observe or listen to the student's efforts, but would be satisfied with the student's subsequent verbal report of what came out of the instrument. Does it sound familiar? And this is hard data. Looking at the number of students who were never observed performing three skills: a history taking, a focus examination, and a complete physical exam. And this is in post-graduation. Now I can tell you that this is so in post-graduation. What would be in undergraduation? Now the 250 is the new norm. 250 has become a big excuse for a lot of stuff. So just to repurpose ourselves, the purpose of clinical teaching and training is expertise in the care of the patient. Not in knowledge, not in skills, but in the care of the patient. And remember, the secret of the care of the patient is in caring for the patient. This is Francis Bell. So one of the simple things that you can do is have a skills lab. You don't need to have a fancy skills lab, but your student has an iPhone or a Samsung or any other phone that has a camera. It becomes a skills lab. So let's talk about it. My big project now is to take these things from being AdCom or ProDev or isolated constructs in education to mainstreaming, from backstreaming to mainstreaming. It means that my belief, and I think Avinash shares this, and many of us share this, is that this doesn't belong in a cycle. It doesn't belong in a silo. It doesn't belong in forensic medicine. I hope there are no forensic medicine people here today. But it belongs in every class. And what we're trying to do, and I talk about CAR when I do this, is to ask people to give 5 minutes of their clinical class or theory class to talk about this and ask questions. For example, you're doing a class on tuberculosis at the end of it. You've given the entire regimen. Can I observe you explaining to this patient how to take drugs? Can I observe you give an informed consent to this patient? Can I observe you explain to this patient the prognosis? If this patient refused to treat, how are you going to explain this to students? If this patient refuses the treatment, are you going to continue to treat the patient? 5 minutes. It doesn't take more than that. It's 5 minutes of everything that you do. It's like attendance time. So this, I can't claim benefit for this. This started with William Branch's major article that was published in JAMA in 2001. by the one preceptor, but simply, and this is part of the CARP initiative, what do you do? Tell the learner, can you explain the diagnosis of the patient in language that he or she can understand? Maybe ask further questions for the patient. Can I observe you while you do this? How can you ensure that the patient has understood what you just explained? The patient, you say, my colleague is here. I'm going to stand. He's going to discuss the diagnosis with you. I'll watch your discussion silently. After the explanation, he may ask you to repeat what you understood. You can freely ask questions to him, and I can come back. Then after the thing, call the learner and say, what do you think went well? What do you think did not go so well? Do you want me to tell you what I thought of this? And if you were to do this again, how would you do this differently? It takes, how much would it take? After all, we talk about the same mesenteric complex, the same 50 causes of hypersplenomegaly, the same thing over and over and over and over again. How would it be different? Talk about this for 5 minutes. In a pharmacology class, sure. Can you write a prescription in a way the patient understands? Can you write a test report for us? Can you explain to this, in what words are you going to explain to this patient what is the adverse reaction? Can you do this in every class? Can it be done? Let's start. So basically, you can use humanism or you can do any of these in the ward, utilizing patient care experiences, in the classroom, in the anatomy hall, in the pathology lab, in the physiology lab. You don't need an ethics expert. You don't need a subject expert. You just need you. You just need you and you need your commitment. This is what we're trying to do. And you can treat any of these social amenities, verbal communication skills. Okay, I want you to talk to this patient, look at me, and come back. You can be the person who they criticize. Tell me what I did well, what I did not do well. Did I use the right expressions? Did I use the right communication? That's how good. So this is really what you want to do. I don't want to spend time on this. Lastly, before I move on and talk about, all of us talk about professional role modeling. We think that we are all great role models. But what is the most important attribute of being a role model? What do students value? The truth is, this is what students value the most. Someone who's completely non-judgmental. What do they value the least? Your 53 causes of hypersplenomegaly. When you role model people and when you allow people to grow, you need to be someone who balances challenge and support. If you don't challenge and you don't support, a lot of times I get this on our car thing, our students are not interested. Why? Because you set the bar too low. They're bored with you. You don't challenge them. Or you've gone to the other end where you challenge them so much but you don't support them, where you think they run away from you. What you really want is to balance how much you challenge them and how much you support them. And especially in things like these are very important. Lastly, my favorite one is this reflection. Arthasya nishchayo dashno. Vicharena hito. Which means we learn by 3 things. 1, by reflection, by taking a pause and trying to reflect on our actions. 2nd, by imitation. And 3rd, by our mistake, preferably by somebody else's mistake. But taking a pause, a lot of times in our class, who do we think is the most valuable student? The person who doesn't even wait for your question to finish and vomits out the answer. I want you to move on with this. If somebody does that nowadays, I've started saying, look, I don't want an oral reference. I want you to think. And if your students are blurting out answers, there is probably something wrong with your questions. Because your questions are not allowing this person to grow. Your questions are just making him a copycat of you, which you don't want. Why would the world want another you? So this is reflection. How do you go about reflection? You say, tell me what happened. How did you feel about it? about marriage, I don't know why. So this is my way forward. I think we need to spend more time on the important parts of being an adult. Attitude, values, responsibility, and communication. Less time and all the esoteric parts. They will learn it with you, without you, and in spite of you. They don't need our knowledge. The world has changed. When we were medical students, books were not bigger. They were a premium. So the teacher had to be someone who knew a lot. And that's why we used to crowd around the teacher. We make sure the girls are in front and we just sort of stare back. But if you notice today, and many teachers complain, that the students are not interested. Because if you can say 53 causes of hypersplendomegaly, the student can Google another 50 more. But we need to reinvent ourselves from providers of knowledge to providers of experience and wisdom. That is the most valuable commodity today. Your experience and your wisdom. And to reinvent that, we need to reinvent ourselves into people who ask the right questions. Not necessarily provide the answers, but provide the right questions for the students to explore. Remember again and again, that's really important. And this is not message from me, it's from the Untitled. It starts from there, it says, it talks about questions. It is a discussion of Brigu's son. It is there in the Kathopanishad where Nachiketa goes in and talks to Yama. It's all questions. Whenever is teaching has never been about giving answers. It's always been about asking questions. So ask the right questions, and this could be what you could do. This is something that we started doing, passing on to teachers in series of small JPEGs. It's both in our Facebook site as well as we have a small WhatsApp group, and I bombard people with more and we create some discussions. It talks about ideas for people to start looking at things like ability to listen, power of observation, talking about mistakes, respecting disagreement, cadaver teaching ability, stuff like that. So, what I'm going to leave with is invite Dr.SUPE and this wonderful college to be part of it, be a charter member of the CARD initiative, that make a commitment from teachers to spend 5 minutes, 4 times a month, 20 minutes a month, to start asking questions that question students' communication ability, their attitudes, their responsiveness. It's important that we do. And before I leave, let me ask you my favorite questions. What did you learn or unlearn today? Write it down. Ask me. This is a great way of doing a class. At the end of it, a simple way to ask people to reflect is, what did you learn today or what did you unlearn today? And what are you going to change based on what you learned? After all, what the Ashtanga tells you is that the person who reflects at the end of the day, what happened, is a person who never loses in life. So, here's my message. You could take AAROGYA, he says, in times of profound change, the learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. Or, my favorite guy, Campbell Post, says, the problem with the future is it keeps turning into the present. Don't worry about what's happened. A lot of times we go with what has happened. But my favorite, all the medicine and philosophy I learned it from 2 people. One is Albus Dumbledore, and the other is for Kung Fu Panda. So what Kung Fu Panda says is, yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery, but today is a gift. So because it's the present, right? So let's start using the present, start making the changes that are required for the future, because our country deserves doctors who care, who are compassionate, who have the right attitude, who are responsive, and a wonderful set of values. Because remember, You sit not very far from a place, from a man who built up a very, very small army, defied his father, and created the largest empire in this part of the country, starting with a band of 11 or 12 people. And I think a 3,500 crore monument to him is very less. Thank you so much.
I got lost and I had to be told that I had to come down here. So may I now request our chairpersons to please come out to the rest of our dean sir also. Would the chairpersons like to say a few words?
Thank you very much. Very enlivening experience for those who are going to be future teachers and doctors. I would like to add one thing that Dr. Sunil Pandya is the first chairman of Medical Chair of Humanities, which we have named after Dr.M.V.L.Kothari. And he is remembered by all those students who learned from him for last 30 years or more. And they all said that we hardly remember any other teachers who taught us except you, because you told us how to go about in life. You told us how not to take all your textbooks knowledge as gospel truth. In fact, you de-learn and question it. Here you are not, in fact in anatomy department it was displayed, here you come not to learn what is given in all the textbooks and teacher tell you, but question it. Sir, thank you very much, because I am sure our teachers and students will take these valuable lessons and consolidate our efforts which DR.SUPE started in Medical Division of Humanities under able guidance of Dr. Sunil Pandya. Thank you very much.
Pandya, sir, would you like to say a few words?
I think we had an oration which fulfilled every single expectation that I had expressed and more. There was wit, there was humor, and there was a lot of wisdom. And as he quite correctly pointed out, it's up to us now to work on ourselves. And the common tendency is for us to keep on saying our students are not good. The student material, so to say, is not good. He's very, very rightly showed us that there's nothing wrong with us students. If there is anything wrong, it is with us, the teachers, and it's up to us to change and improve matters. Thank you, sir.
May I now request the chairpersons to felicitate Dr.Krishna G Seshadri, the distinguished speaker. DR.SUPE sir to please felicitate the chairperson